Hey, good afternoon everyone, it's Tractorman 44. I'm working on the old trailer here, and there's been something bugging me about this thing for a long time. This is a homemade trailer, and whenever you build something, you don't really have access to all the engineering data and stuff, that professional trailer manufacturers have. So you do a lot of things, by guess. I put brand new 7,000 pound axles under it, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, maybe 12 years ago or so. So it's roughly 14,000 gross weight. But at any rate, I've never been happy with this lintel iron here, which is a 3" by 5" 3/8 inch angle here. That's the outside border. I've never been happy with that because it's always limited the size of the tire that I could put under here. Now these here are 225s. These are a light truck, the 10 ply LT 225 75R 16s, and whenever I have a flat tire out on the road, which hauling logs and tractors and stuff like I do, we have a tendency to do that. But you can't hardly get a tire bigger than a 225 in here. Well, I have access to 235s, 245s, in some cases 265s come my way, and I'd like to be able to use those in there, but I can't. To change it to anything larger, and I can only go to 235s because of the sidewall distance right here, but I've got to use 2 jacks out on the interstate to jack up the front axle so the back axle will lower down, and then I've got to use that to adjust as necessary to get the tire on and off. But at any rate, what I'm going to do, if you notice right here, you see a mark. I've laid out an arc there because I'm going to go ahead and cut this out and create a fender well that's going to allow me to run a much wider tire. But that tire is going to come in contact possibly with this in a bouncing situation. It's not going to compress the springs because I've never had the springs compress enough to even get this tire up underneath the deck. So I know I'm not have to worry about that at all. I'll have plenty of clearance here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the fender well in here. Then I'm going to take these old leaf springs off an old truck. I'm going to cut these leaf springs down, and I'm going to weld those in here to where I've got a flat surface that's going to stiffen this back up. Is going to change that now weakened angle iron, is going to change that back into a nice T-joint, which is going to add strength back to it. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull the tires off, go ahead and cut these out of here, and then we'll whack off a couple of these springs. And we're going to go ahead and set them up in there like that, and we're going to weld them into place. That's the theory anyway. It'll either work or it won't. If it don't work, well, we just go back to the drawing board. What I'm going to use for a jack, I'm going to use this old Simplex railroad jack. So it might be an 8-ton, but this guy's is really pretty cool. I use these all the time around the old tractors. I pick them up at yard sales or farm auctions because they are just so convenient. This one here is a very smooth operating one. There's up and there's down. It's just simple as can be. So I'll put that in the up position, slide it in here. You can use anything for a handle. You can use a tire tool. You can use a piece of gas pipe. You can use just about anything. Thing you have to be concerned about with these railroad jacks is it's going to be metal on metal, and sometimes it'll jostle off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, just for safety, I'm going to put a jack stand underneath that axle as soon as I get that tire off of there. Guess I wouldn't make it a NASCAR, would I? I put 2 of those jack stands up in there, put a little weight on the jack stand, leave a little bit on the Simplex, and we'll be good to go. As luck would have it, my plasma cord was too short to reach all the way out here, so we're going to have to do it the oxyacetylene route, and that's not going to be nearly as pretty, so there will be some grinding that's going to have to be done after this cut. And I'm about out of oxygen acetylene. I gotta make sure that nothing wood is on fire under there. Not too bad. I'll doll that up a little bit with the angle grinder, and I think it should be great. It should be fine. Gonna move on to do the second one right up there. Not too bad, a little grinding, should be okay too. I've got the rust all ground off of it, the paint ground off of it. I've got the first spring ready to set in here. We're going to put it in here and probably tack the very front end so it don't move, and then use the clamps to bring the spring up into the arch. and it should work out halfway decently. So there we go, that's the idea. I just go ahead and skip the weld that across there. Do that on all 4 fender wells. Now we have to stop here for just a minute. If you look at this 3" by 5" angle iron on the side, you'll see it swelled out right here. I was in the woods one time and I ran over top of a big old stump, and it drug up inside here and bent that angle iron out. I've been waiting all this time to fix that. So what I got to do is I got to draw that in a little bit before I stick it onto the fender well. That's stuck good enough for now. We're going to go ahead and pull that in with another clamp, and then we'll tack it in place. I don't know, this may or may not work. Just got this little guy here. Stick it in on the frame. Set me a block right here. Probably break my clamp before we get it drawn up. Oh, it's drawing it in a lot. There is some pressure on that clamp. It's not all the way, but it's a lot better than it was. I'm going to stick it and call it good. Oh yeah, it's better. Not perfect, but it's better. By hook or by crook, these 2 are done. I don't know yet what to expect off of this spring steel and that EGR70S rod, a 7018 rod in MIG. I don't know if it's going to crack. I don't know if it's going to want to flex because it is spring steel and this is just mild steel. I don't know what's going to happen. The worst thing will happen is we have to knock it off and then put mild steel in there in place, a 2" strap of mild steel, maybe 1/4" or something like that. It doesn't really do that much structurally. I guess it does because we did cut a lot of that angle iron off of there, so that's going to make up for some of that. But the main thing is going to allow me to put a much wider tire and get a much wider tire up in there. And if I do get down with a fairly heavy load, I'll have this nice smooth fender well for that tire to bump on, or to bump on that tire, and I won't cut a groove or grind a groove into the top of my tire. But I've been very, very lucky. I've had some massive loads on this trailer, and I've never sprung the springs down far enough to where even those tires would even touch underneath the wood decking, and the wood decking tops out just about a ½ inch above this level right here. So here we go. That's the finished product. Even got a little bit of paint on it, but that's going to give me a considerable amount of clearance now to change into a much fatter tire. 225s, 235s, 245s for sure. And that's what I usually run, is 225s. Occasionally I run 215s if some of them come available. But this way I can use anything that I want on here. And this is the other side, completed as well. So I'm really stoked with this. This is going to be just fine. This may be the end of this. I don't know, because y'all see what I'm doing, you know, and it might be boring just to watch everything. And so, you know what? This is TractorMan 44, and I am out of here.